Designed to test your imagination, Rocket Racers at Legoland Windsor was an incredibly ambitious attraction for its time, which had its fair share of technical issues. The ride allowed guests to customize their very own LEGO vehicles, which were used in a competitive racing game against your friends and family. Despite the attraction's popularity among the park's regular guests, it was only open briefly, with the ride closing twice over its short-lived life. What caused the ride to close, and why is it still considered such a highly rated ride? Within this video, I'll be answering all of those questions and more about the opening and eventual closure of Rocket Racers. If you do enjoy this video at any point, then please consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss any future uploads. Personally, this was one of my favourite attractions at the theme park when I was younger, and it's definitely a ride you can do multiple times without it getting boring. Due to the way the attraction was designed, it meant that every ride was unique and there was plenty of different combinations and racetracks to explore. The attraction began development just before the 2000 season, when the company was looking to add a new attraction alongside the opening of the Creation Center. After much discussion, it was decided that an interactive experience would be built based around the popular LEGO Racers game. Various teams and contractors were tasked to create this unique attraction that had to promote creativity, imagination, and fun. With the plans in place, the various teams got to work on designing and building this one-of-a-kind attraction. Some of the notable teams that worked on this ride includes the likes of PARKZ Studios for the theming, Technovations for the installation, and the ride software was made by LEGO Media and the game developer Attention to Detail. By utilising one of the developers' already published video games called Roll Cage, the team were able to use its in-game engine to help create the finished ride. After many months of planning and construction, LEGO Racers LBE first opened to the public during the Christmas 2000 season. The ride's queue line was heavily themed, which was based on the space map which is found within the video game. It also featured portraits of the game's bosses on the wall, alongside various rockwork and theming items based on the original game. PARKZ Studios worked on many of these elements, including a full-size LEGO brick helicopter with rotating blades. To create this large-scale model, they used various materials and metalwork in the structure, which was actually modelled off a LEGO kit plan from the original set. This creation was placed at the very entrance of the attraction for everyone to see. The ride featured 5 lanes, 3 downstairs and 2 upstairs. Each lane had 3 separate rooms, which combined made up the entire experience. 8 people can walk through the attraction per room, which leads to around a 10-minute experience from the start of the pre-show to the end of the race. Speaking of the pre-show, this is where you are shown a short video talking about the attraction's experience. It features some great humour while still informing the guests about how the ride works. This video is voiced over by David Lamb, who's probably most recognisable for his voiceover work on the UK's TV show Come Dine With Me. He isn't the only LEGO character we get to meet, as we're also introduced to the attraction's best minifigure named Larry. He helps the guests understand how to create your very own LEGO character and vehicle, which happens in the building room next door. To help with the ride's throughput, each section of the attraction is against the clock so that all of the rooms ahead and behind move at the same time. To make sure guests quickly learn how to use the software, the video shows Larry failing at completing the various stages so that guests don't make the same mistakes he did. If nothing is selected by the end of the countdown, the computer will simply choose for you. The options given to players includes choosing your own LEGO face, hat, body and feet, as well as options for your car's wheels and look. Before you leave this room, you're then asked to enter your name into the system, which would eventually appear on your racing car screen, including your custom built car. A fun fact I didn't know about this attraction until researching this video was that a hidden Easter egg was built into the software that allowed you to drive in first person. To unlock this, you would simply have to enter your name as LAQ, which was the spelling error which Larry made during the briefing video. To avoid any confusion during the ride, in the building room each of the touchscreen computers were colour and number coded so that your designs matched up with the correct car. Finally, after these 2 sections, you then enter the racing room, which features all of the race pods. Each game takes place over a 3-minute race against the others in your group. The ride's controls were easy to pick up, with a steering wheel to guide your car and an accelerate and brake pedal to control your speed. The game also featured power-ups which could be activated by pressing a button on the steering wheel. At the end of the race, your position gets displayed on all of the screens for everyone to see, depending on where you finished. Shortly after its opening, the attraction quickly became a popular addition at the park, with the ride proving to be a successful investment. Considering the ride opened all the way back in 2000, it's incredible how they managed to build such a unique and complicated ride when the technology needed at the time simply didn't exist prior to its opening. Guests continued to enjoy the new ride over the next few years, but unfortunately the ride's hardware and software was struggling to keep up. The attraction had many issues during its daily operations, with the software sometimes crashing, as well as the monitors on the race pods often overheating. The 3 lanes found downstairs were more than capable of handling the number of guests visiting the attraction, so the 2 lanes upstairs were only used for a couple of weeks during the attraction's opening month. Because the upstairs lanes were no longer in use, this meant when the ride needed spare components, they could simply use parts from the closed lanes. Due to these ongoing issues as well as a lack of spare parts, the attraction sadly closed at the end of 2004. After sitting abandoned for many years, the site was once again looked at to see if anything could be done with the defunct attraction. After much consideration, it was decided that the ride would be refurbished to try and bring it back to its original state. After turning on the old Windows 98 computers, the team behind the renovation were able to see what was still working and what needed to be fixed. The first major issue they encountered was that the old machines they needed replacing were the only computers that worked with the ride software. If that wasn't a big enough problem, the company that helped build the ride's original software was now dissolved as a company. Luckily, Rob Baker from the original project was found once again, and he was contracted to rewrite the original program to run on XP. To help replace the ride's old boxy screens, Panasonic agreed to sponsor the ride once it reopened, so that it would now feature new plasma screens. The whole attraction was thoroughly cleaned, painted and refurbished, so that it would be ready to open to the public for the start of the 2009 theme park season. The name had had a slight change, so that it would now be called Rocket Racers. Just like its original opening, the attraction became an instant hit with guests, especially those who had experienced it before its closure. The ride continued to operate throughout the 2010 and 11 theme park season, but despite its complete overhaul, the ride still had problems with its reliability. Due to the ever-improving computer graphics and games that were coming out during that decade, the ride fast became outdated. Because of this, the park felt the time had come for Rocket Racers to permanently close. The space occupying the ride didn't stay empty for long, as this part of the building would be repurposed in 2012 as a new LEGO Star Wars walkthrough experience. Much of the ride's infrastructure still remained in place, but the various rooms and areas now featured popular moments from the Star Wars films. The walkthrough attraction was also expanded in 2017 with a new Death Star model added onto the end of the attraction. Recently, it was announced that the LEGO Star Wars Miniland would be closing at the end of 2019. Once again, the attraction space has been left empty, with no sign of anything returning to its site anytime soon. In my opinion, Rocket Racers is one of the most underrated defunct UK attractions out there, and I hope this video can shed some light on it. It was such a fun attraction for all ages, and it's a real shame it only opened to the public for a few years. Let me know down below in the comments if you've been on this classic attraction, and if you did, what did you think of it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for staying to the end of this video, I hope you found it interesting. My name's Luke from Coast Connection, and I'll see you in my next video.